Abby, when do you plan to leave this house? It's really embarrassing to have an unemployed shut-in in the house. When are you moving out? Actually, I'm leaving today. I can't stand seeing your face anymore. Seeing her evil grin, it was clear that my sister-in-law, Maggie, was trying to take over our house. Nonetheless, there were reasons why I decided to move out and give up the house. I was convinced that Maggie wouldn't be able to live here for long. My name is Abby. I live with my parents and my brother's wife, Maggie, at our family home. Right after my brother got married, he was assigned overseas. Even though they were newlyweds, Maggie didn't want to live abroad. Instead, she ended up living with us, my parents and me. I remember the day Maggie arrived with a lot of luggage, boldly saying, "Since Sean has gone overseas, his room is empty, right? I'm thinking of moving in." Her sudden decision to move into our house confused us greatly. When we called my brother to explain the situation, even he was surprised at Maggie's action. Although he tried to persuade her not to move into our house, it was up to us, the family, to discuss it directly with Maggie. Originally, Maggie was supposed to live in the apartment my brother had lived before. However, she claimed it was too small and suddenly decided to stay at our house, which would make it easier to commute to work, and her parents live far away. My parents were obviously upset with her outrageous behavior, but Maggie was so conniving. "Sean isn't here and I miss him. If you let me stay here, I will pay the rent and help with the household chores. Please let me stay," Maggie pleaded, and my parents weren't able to say no to her. What I believe is that my parents couldn't say no to Maggie because they felt bad for Sean rather than for her. Although at first they weren't happy with her compulsive move-in, after a while they seemed fine sharing the house with her. Because she did pay the rent, go to work, and do the house chores as promised. However, I was far from being fine. For some reason, Maggie didn't seem to like me at all, and she'd been very mean to me. "Hey, Abby. Have you looked at yourself in the mirror?" she said to me one morning as I came out of my room. I don't consider myself particularly good looking, but she was obviously trying to hurt me. "Abby, you're always holed up in the house. Aren't you ashamed? Sean is doing great working overseas. And your parents both work to make a living, yet here you are, always home and not working. What a shame." Today, my parents were out for work, and Maggie had the day off. Whatever, I thought to myself, but replied, "No, I'm not ashamed. Actually, I do work. Indeed, due to the nature of my job, I do spend a lot of time at home, but I definitely work." When I told her so, Maggie laughed. "Abby, you don't have to lie. Your brother is an elite. I also work at a famous company, and your parents work at top-tier companies. I understand you feel uncomfortable here, but that doesn't mean you need to lie." "I'm not lying. I'm an influencer." "An influencer? Really? You can't be. It's something elegant people like models would do." "But I am," I replied, but she didn't listen and turned away, with her long, beautifully curled hair flowing. As she walked away, a strong scent of perfume lingered in the air. "I can't deal with your lies anymore. I am really busy. Unlike you, who just stays home and being unemployed. So do you mind cleaning up the house?" Maggie said as she briskly walked away, then suddenly paused and uttered a small "ah." Just when I wondered what was happening, Maggie turned around with a malicious look. "Abby, you might need this. You must be struggling financially. I'll pay you a little as a thank you for doing the housework," she said, laughing mockingly. She then took out her wallet, casually tossed a few $10 bills on the floor, and said goodbye as she left the house. Her condescending attitude made me furious. Maggie's behavior is infuriating, but I am also disappointed with my brother for choosing this type of woman. Did she really think I would just silently accept this treatment? Maggie may see me as a docile sister-in-law, but I am not the type of person she thinks. I picked up the bills scattered on the floor, opened Maggie's room door without permission, and threw them back inside. "I don't understand how you can be so arrogant with just a few $10. I am not financially troubled, and I had planned to spend today relaxing, but I was unexpectedly busy." After finishing the housework and my work for the day, I packed my bags. My aversion to living under the same roof as Maggie had grown stronger. I am moving to my boyfriend's house. After telling my worried parents that I was leaving, I finished washing the dishes with my sad-looking mother and left the room with my prepared luggage. Then comes Maggie. With heavy makeup, Maggie looked at me and smiled as if she had found something amusing. "Abby, when do you plan to leave this house? It's really embarrassing to have an unemployed shut-in in the house. When are you moving out?" she taunted. "Actually, I am leaving today. I can't stand seeing your face anymore," I replied calmly, which clouded Maggie's face. The overconfident sister-in-law glared at me with a very mean look after she heard me. Although I feel sorry for my brother, I have to distance myself from this woman. The next time I face Maggie, I need to prepare thoroughly to respond more appropriately. Therefore, I tried to come up with strategic schemes for our next confrontation. "Excuse me," I said politely to her, and I hugged my parents and left the house. My boyfriend Tony said I should be happy I don't have to deal with her anymore, but I still felt like I needed to save my brother Sean from her. My brother is too nice, which is why he has been deceived by Maggie. Now I knew what she'd been doing behind our back. I wasn't going to dismiss it. "I'm sorry to make you worry, but we must kick her out," I declared firmly. A few days after I left home, I received a call from my mother. "Why did you suddenly send these? Don't just send them without saying anything to us. You need to come home and explain. I've called Sean and told him we would video chat when you get here. Maggie is also here waiting, so come quickly," she said, and I replied, "Okay." As soon as I stepped into the entrance, I could sense the heavy atmosphere throughout the house. As I approached the living room, Maggie's crying grew louder. When I opened the living room door, Maggie, sitting in front of my parents and kneeling on the floor, looked at me with a sharp gaze. "Abby, this is terrible. Why did you send these pictures?" Maggie pointed out angrily at a pile of photos spread on the coffee table. The photos showed Maggie at various places with different men, including shots of her arm in arm and holding hands with a man. Indeed, as Maggie said, I was the sender. I suspected my sister-in-law was having an affair, so I hired a private detective to get solid evidence. This was much more than I expected. "No, Maggie, you are terrible. You have been cheating on me," my brother yelled. Even through the screen, his face was red with anger, clearly showing how agitated he was. Then Maggie pleaded with tears. "I was really lonely. Right after we got married, you went overseas and left me alone. So, it's your fault." My parents looked pretty uncomfortable watching this scene. In response to the situation, I said, "Yes, perhaps my brother did cause this to happen," with a hint of sarcasm. Maggie looked surprised with my response and seemed lost. Her look was mixed with expectation and calculation at the same time. I looked her in the eye and calmly continued, "The real problem is lack of judgment in people. It all started when Sean chose this woman." Maggie was shaking with anger at my cold remark and raised her voice in retort. "What are you talking about? How can someone who just stays at home all the time say such things? The truth is, you created this whole situation." She said it. Her words were sharp, and the room was filled with even heavier tension. But I chose to stay calm and tried not to react to the cruel accusation. In front of the whole family, Maggie revealed a shocking truth from her own mouth. After shouting as if she was driven by something, she covered her mouth with her hand, realizing the weight of her words. At that point, it was impossible to mend matters. My parents and Sean could not hide their surprise when she showed her true colors, but I kept my cool and told them that this was Maggie's true nature. Maggie looks down on me. She acts kindly usually, but in reality, she despises others, cheats repeatedly, and says real mean things to ones she looks down upon. Too bad Sean didn't see it before he married her. Maggie responded, "Everything I said is true. You all know that Abby is not working. Are you also going to say that her being an influencer isn't a lie?" My mother sighed deeply and quietly retorted, "That's completely unexpected. Abby does spend a lot of time at home, but she is certainly not unemployed. She is indeed active as an influencer." "What? said Maggie. I revealed my online alias and told her to look up that name online to see for herself. She immediately grabbed her smartphone and searched the name. As the search results appeared, Maggie was visibly shaken and looked back and forth between me and the smartphone screen several times. "Really? This doesn't look like you, Abby," she said. "Yes, makeup really does magic," I replied. As an influencer specializing in beauty, I use my natural features and makeup to transform into a completely different person in numerous videos posted online. I frequently receive promotional requests from cosmetic brands and publish makeup videos using their products, gaining support from many fans. When I added, "This house was also built with money I earned," Maggie could not hide her surprise and asked, "No way." Despite the late hour, the doorbell rang. Wondering who could visit this late, I answered the doorbell and asked who it was. A familiar voice, "May I come in?" And I replied, "Of course." As he entered the living room, Maggie's eyes widened. "Oh my God. Why is Tony here?" she exclaimed in astonishment. Tony, with a polite greeting and a refreshing smile, said, "You must be Abby's sister-in-law. I heard so much about you. It's an honor to meet you." Tony, a well-known actor who has been successful in the entertainment industry since childhood. We met by chance at a casual social event and hit it off immediately. Since then, we kept our intimate relationship under wraps for years. Maggie finally seemed to accept the fact that I was a professional influencer once Tony appeared. "No way," she muttered under her breath. And Sean, from a distance through the screen, sent encouraging words. "I don't have time for this." This statement changed the situation dramatically. Immediately, Sean wanted a divorce and wanted to discuss their prenuptial agreement with lawyers. Sean was planning to come home for vacation. Until he came back, Maggie stayed at my parents' house. This period was very distressing for her, and my parents looked at her coldly. After ensuring Sean had safely separated from her, we left the scene. "Why did you come?" I asked Tony on our way home, and he replied, "I was worried you might be mistreated by her." Touched by his kindness, I couldn't help but smile. 2 weeks had passed and Sean came home. And during that time, Maggie stayed mostly in her room and hardly got out. As the divorce proceedings advanced, Maggie begged him, crying, "You're the one I truly love." But Sean never changed his mind. After the divorce, Maggie lived by herself for a while, and men she had once been close to began to avoid her because she wasn't as attractive as before due to the stress and her haggard appearance from the divorce. Sean refused to be in touch with her, and eventually she quit her job and returned to her parents' home. Maggie once mocked me, but ironically, she herself fell into that very position. After the divorce, Sean was very cautious about relationships, but he met a wonderful woman and they eventually got married. The new sister-in-law has attractive blonde hair and is diligently learning English to communicate with our family. Tony and I eventually came out as a couple and got married, and our wedding was widely covered by the media. Tony, beloved since his childhood acting days, received blessings from many people, and I have also been widely recognized as Tony's wife. Currently, our entire family live happily. My name is Amanda. I am 30 years old. I've been working from home, creating illustrations and webcomics. My son, Jack, is currently 5 years old. He's a bright and active boy and has been attending a nursery school. My husband, Kevin, is often busy with his work and doesn't come home early. So I've been handling childcare and housework basically. It's challenging to strike a balance between work and parenting. But I feel happy every day because Jack is everything to me and Kevin is willing to help me on his days off. However, our peaceful time was suddenly gone. Our tranquil life was ended by an unexpected death of my father-in-law. He was 60 years old. Kevin was devastated by it and my mother-in-law broke down in tears. She stayed at our house until his bereavement was gone. I thought she must be grieving and gave her some space and time to heal, but that was a miscalculation. Eventually, the bereavement was gone and Kevin went back to work. She didn't seem to like me very much from the beginning of our marriage. She served coffee to other family members, but not to me, and she looked down on my single-parent background in front of Kevin. I expected her to go back to her own home as soon as Kevin returned work, but surprisingly, she didn't leave. Her stay at our house got normal, and one day she brought a large, fully packed suitcase. "Mother, are you living here? You are not the sharpest tool in the shed. I've suddenly lost my husband and feel lonely. Can you imagine how painful and lonely it is to be living by myself?" I cautiously asked if she meant to live here, but I was so shocked by her arrogant response that I couldn't interject. Indeed, I understood that she felt lonely. I just couldn't kick her out of the house on my own. As a result, she brought a lot of her belongings into our home and eventually took up her own space in the living room. I spent a lot of time with my unemployed mother-in-law because my work is home-based, and those days were filled with many difficulties. All you do at home is drawing pictures like a child's sketch. Kevin is working hard outside. Poor Jack, sent to daycare because of your hobby. When I was young, I took care of Kevin while doing housework. She got married at a young age and never experienced working, has always been negative about sending children to daycare. She sees my work as just a hobby and constantly criticizes me for sending Jack to there. After she started living in our house, it increased the amount of household chores I had to do significantly. When I was alone at home, I often skipped lunch, but she complained, "I'm hungry." Not even giving a meal to your husband's mother. How harsh a daughter-in-law are you? So I started preparing lunch for her too. She didn't lift a finger to clean or tidy up and just only complained, like, "This place is so dirty, it could harm Kevin and Jack's health." I had to clean every corner meticulously, or she would make sarcastic remarks even while I'm working, which took my time for cleaning. But the deadlines for my work wouldn't wait. When I worked late into the night to meet deadlines, she said, "Poor Jack, he can't play with his mother." But all she did was watching TV. I considered talking to Kevin, but she pretended to be gentle and treated me kindly in front of him. Furthermore, he was handling an important task at work, wanting him to live stress-free at home, so I decided to endure it. However, my behavior led to her even more arrogant. She complained about the lunch I prepared. "It's disgusting. Are you trying to shorten my life with such heavy food?" And started demanding money for meals outside. The amount she did was always over $300. I asked her once if she really needed to eat out so often. She furiously retorted, "Are you telling me to stop my only pleasure? I want to play at the casino. Don't you pity me, a widow left by her husband?" I've never seen such a cold-hearted daughter-in-law. So I reluctantly gave her money. Gradually, the household chores and money she demanded increased. The pressure of my job, household chores, childcare, and being a target for my mother-in-law's stress relief became overwhelming. On a day when it seemed like these pressures would crush me, as I and Jack were going home from the nursery, he asked me with a serious face, "Mom, am I a pitiful child? Why do you feel that way?" Grandma said I'm a pitiful child. She said you're always busy and don't like me. With tears in his eyes, seeing Jack made me realize my mistakes and my actions. It woke me up and convinced me not was able to continue living this way. I believed there would be no problems as long as I was patient. But I came to understand that this was wrong. She had even told Jack things like, "Children who go to daycare are pitiful, and your mom enjoys drawing pictures by herself." This couldn't continue. I decided to change our daily life. I told my decision to her, who was enjoying watching the TV in the living room as usual. "Mother, Jack and I are going overseas for a week." "Overseas?" She stood up in surprise and looked at me with shining eyes. "Going abroad sounds wonderful. When?" "I have to prepare quickly." "You don't need to prepare. Only Jack and I are going. I have to stay home. Leaving even Kevin behind, I can't believe it. Both you and Kevin will stay here. But for you, I will give you a gift, a 3-day domestic trip as a token of my gratitude for always taking care of us. Please enjoy your time." I said calmly. Although she said something in response, my mind was already made up. It's not an international trip, but I thought it would be still nice for her to be able to go on a domestic one for free. A few days later, as planned, Jack and I set off for our trip abroad. It was our first time flying, and he was very excited. I had been busy with work and household chores and couldn't spend much time with him, so I did my best to make him happy during the opportunity. While we thoroughly enjoyed this trip, she called me once. It was unpleasant to get a call during our happy times, but I answered it just to make sure. Then she began speaking in a sarcastic tone. Sorry to bother you during your trip, but Kevin and I have moved to a new house. The old one doesn't exist anymore, so please enjoy your trip as much as you can. I see, thank you for letting me know. My calm response seemed to surprise her a bit, but I anticipated it would happen. In fact, I was grateful that she had followed our plan and even informed me about it. Our joyful days abroad ended and we returned to our new home. Waiting for us was Kevin with a smile. Welcome back, Amanda Jack. How was the trip? Yeah, it was fantastic. Thank you for giving us this wonderful experience. Kevin, it's okay. I had caused trouble for the two of you, so it's the least I could do. While celebrating our happy reunion as a family, my phone rang. I checked the caller ID and it was her again. I was full of hope and answered it. Yes, Mother, can I help you? Amanda, do you know where Kevin is? She sounded desperate and began explaining her situation in a rush. She and Kevin had started living in their new house. However, she said Kevin hadn't come home even once. Worried, she called his workplace and found out he had resigned. In her panic, she sought help from the police. But the police received a response when they called him. Moreover, when the police tried to pass the phone to her, he refused to talk to her. She went to the police station, made a scene there, and received a warning. Did you say something to Kevin? Where is he? He is here, playing with Jack, and is in good health. There's no need to worry. What are you talking about? He was supposed to live with me. He was planning to divorce you, who does nothing but draw pictures all day, and take custody of Jack. Is this something you and he discussed, or is it something you're assuming on your own? What? She was furious, but before the trip, I had already had a discussion with Kevin. When I talked to him about the difficulties of living with his mother and the negative influence on Jack, he apologized and said, I'm sorry my mother is causing these problems. Through that conversation, I realized for the first time that he was also suffering from living with his mother. He told me that his mother had said various things to him, like Amanda is abusive, she doesn't give me meals, and you should divorce the wife like that soon. Kevin was irritated by these. He trusted me and seemed to have argued with his mother that Amanda would never do such a thing, but he was troubled on how to deal with his mother when she got upset. Then, we proceeded with our strategy to distance ourselves from her. This plan was his idea. He arranged a new house for us and sent me and Jack on a trip abroad. When we returned from the trip, he had prepared everything for us to live there. Giving her trip was a strategy to make it through. We assumed she wouldn't take it but money. He suggested to her that she should find a new place. Meanwhile, we decided to cancel our old residence. Misunderstanding that he was leaving me to live with her, she actively started looking for a property. As a result, she quickly chose a new one in an attempt to isolate me and moved there. He moved our family's belongings to the new house without letting her know and sent her stuff to her new one. He avoided contact to minimize interaction with her. When she inquired at Kevin's workplace, she was told he had resigned because he was scouted by a company offering good conditions. In other words, while we were on the trip, the relocation of our family to a new house and her move to her new one happened simultaneously. I think it must have been troublesome for you, Mother, to see my immature self. Kevin and I decided it's better for both of us to live without seeing each other's faces. I said, how merciless you are. When I explained the situation, my mother-in-law yelled at me. While her screams echoed in the distance, Kevin quietly took the phone from my hand and sighed, but she didn't notice and kept ranting. It's unnecessary for Kevin to be with such a wife who only draws childish pictures at home and doesn't earn any money. He must find you a nuisance, too. Poor Jack, to be born as your child. He's truly pitiful. So, Mom, were you always blaming Amanda like that? Kevin repeated in a calm tone, and suddenly my mother-in-law's shouting stopped. Mom, I truly love Amanda and have no thoughts of divorce. I understand you're lonely because of Dad's sudden death, but it's inappropriate for you to make Amanda suffer. I regret deceiving you this time, but I chose this method because you wouldn't listen. You're being deceived, Kevin. I'm not deceived. Amanda is an ideal spouse for me and a perfect mother for Jack. Sorry, but I want to distance myself from you. I can't respect you who speaks coldly about my family. Kevin, come back, Kevin. Ignoring her voice, he hung up. I've made you endure a lot. The new company has almost no overtime, so I can help more at home and with child rearing. Let's spend a comfortable time together. Yes, thank you, Kevin. Thus, we cut ties with my mother-in-law. Later, we heard from relatives that she had been living off her late husband's assets for a while but couldn't resist the lure of the casino and had to find her first job. At 55, she faced a new challenge and difficult days without social experience. Kevin tried to contact her after hearing about her state, but she pridefully refused his help, saying, "You're no longer my child. You've been taken over by that witch of a wife." Shocked by her words, he decided not to contact her anymore. I turned the painful days caused by her into a comic essay which was surprisingly well received by many people. A publishing company approached me, and I was able to publish a book, something I had dreamed of. This outcome is also thanks to my mother-in-law, who brought these difficulties. So for the first time, I thanked her for the harsh days I experienced since she came to our house. At that time, I didn't know how to deal with it, but I am truly grateful to Kevin for changing that situation. I will continue sharing beautiful moments with Kevin and Jack.